We are here today with Mike Pollock, who is Managing Director of Spectrum Gaming, to launch an entirely new series of insights video interviews. And we're proud to say that we are partnering with Spectrum Gaming to co-produce this series, which we are calling Public Policy Insights. And to kick off Public Policy Insights, we have appropriately enough, we begin with Mike Pollock himself, who will talk about what he sees as some of the key legislative issues that will be addressed this year. I might also mention that the release of this video, it coincides with the release of our annual legislative preview that we publish at Fantini Research. And anyone who would like a copy of that preview can get one by going to www.fantiniresearch.com and click on the button on the homepage that'll take you to a request form, and we'll be glad to send that by email to you. Mike, thank you for your time and welcome. Any opening comments?
Frank, thrilled that you had this great idea for this, and thrilled that you asked us to join. The whole question of public policy is not only near and dear to my heart, has been for 40 years. As someone who came of age professionally in the Atlantic City market, i.e. when gaming really became a national issue, nothing more important than addressing and identifying and advancing all of the multitude of issues with respect to getting gaming right, getting the policies right, and advancing best practices in policy. So thrilled to be part of it.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you, and we're looking forward to working together as partners in this enterprise. And I might mention that the Public Policy Insights is being sponsored by Global Laboratories International, or GLI, as we all say.
Gaming Laboratories
We're very
International.
pleased to have them as partners with us as well.
Just to correct it, Gaming Laboratories International.
Correct. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Yes. Good to have you all on this to correct me. Okay, let's begin. What are two or three of the major issues you see to be addressed this year, Mike?
Sure. This year, well, coming off of a tumultuous 2020, and still, as we are doing this interview in the depths of a pandemic, although the end is in sight, we're still very much within it. Now, one of the things that we do see is that states are looking to, in some form or another, expand gaming, or those that don't have it are seeking to introduce it. And the real issue is what they need to be thinking about, gets to the heart of what we're discussing here, is doing it right, which means getting it right out of the box. One thing that was clear from 20, 30 years ago, and will be just as true 20, 30 years from now, is that the decisions you as legislators and policymakers make, you're going to live with them a long time. Very difficult to undo. So I'm going to do it right. One of the things we're seeing is that certain states, you can say, take Tennessee as an example, there's multitudes of examples, are looking to leapfrog over the traditional route and go right into mobile sports betting and related digital forms of gaming. And that's fine, but you've got to keep those sort of things in the proper perspective. As many of us who have been around gaming for a long time know, that the public policy benefits of digital gaming, be that in any form, mobile sports betting, iGaming, iLottery, the real benefits come from how do you then leverage those people who are coming onto your site during a pandemic or not during a pandemic, and make them long-term customers, them to spend money in brick and mortar cash registers, whether that's the casino floor or elsewhere. That's the challenge. And it's not easy to do if all you're doing is mobile. That is going to be one of the major challenges. Obviously, it's not surprising that during a pandemic, you're seeing a lot of adults gravitate towards picking up their cell phones or their computers and spending that quarantining time finding ways to spend money, be that through shopping or through gambling. And it's not surprising that a lot of people have come on that way. You're not going to lose them all when the pandemic ends. Let's be clear about that. They're not going to go back to the pre-pandemic ways. That digital form of entertainment is here to stay. But what else can you do? What do you do to leverage that database? That's what policymakers have to think about. Another very important point that we're seeing, I would characterize it as a point of concern, Frank, from a policy standpoint. And that is that there has been some discussion about loosening the standards of licensure, suitability, to allow, for example, entities that have engaged in gray market, black market forms of sports betting, i.e. illegal forms of sports betting, bringing them out into the sunlight, making them legitimate, so to speak, and allowing them to compete in that legitimate market. I've got concerns about that because I'm a fundamental believer in that the growth of gambling over the past, at this point, nearly half century, has been established on the basis that a gaming license is a privilege earned by those who demonstrate their good character, honesty, and integrity. That privilege and all that goes with it, the goodwill and the public confidence that go with it, are the basis of how the gaming industry has evolved. And weakening that, I've got serious concerns about.
You mentioned digital, and one of the trends that we see are legalization of online gaming, whether that be sports betting or casino games or both. Tell us how you see that playing out and the kinds of issues that you think legislators will be looking at when they consider that.
Well, I think that you're going to see these things come in waves. You know, sports betting starting with the overruling or the Supreme Court decision regarding PASPA in 2018 led to a whole lot of states looking at sports betting, and that's still going on. That wave is going to crest. You're going to see a lot more interest in iGaming. And iGaming is not only will produce higher margins, but reach a larger audience. And that's, you can't overestimate the importance of that. Related to that, what we're going to see is that states are going to be looking to how they can improve their lotteries, have lotteries get into a form of, we term iLottery. The difference is with iGaming and iLottery are, I have to characterize them as cousins, so to speak. Almost the same thing, not quite the same thing. Talking about draw games, weekly and daily numbers games, that's fine. But when you start bringing the instant games online, you got to be careful. You got to do it correctly, because if you don't, you're going to run into issues as the gaming industries in your respective states seek to bring their offerings in digital format as a way to A, create a new revenue stream, but B, develop new customers. Their own devices, you may likely run into problems, but to navigate that. An instant game online cannot be the same as a slot machine online. And there are answers that have to be dealt with.
One of the things that I think we saw this even as early as or currently seeing being debated in New York is whether, if in considering expansion of digital gaming, this should be done by a contract through the lottery, maybe even with just a single vendor, or whether it should be done as is occurring in many other states through the already licensed casino operators. What kind of pressures and arguments do you see legislators having to deal with when they come to make that kind of a decision?
Well, let me answer that question without addressing the New York issue, because I think, as you know, we've been working with the state of New York, so I don't want to speak out of turn with respect to New York. So I'm speaking in general terms to address that question. A question that always arises is, who's going to regulate, who's going to authorize your form of gaming, particularly in the digital world. And if you look at the state of Virginia as an emerging state, as a good example, one of the things we recommended there, and they're a major client of ours also, and they've adhered to, is that they're having it all under the aegis of the lottery. You don't need two regulatory agencies if you don't have to have two regulatory agencies. So the lotteries can be very well equipped to certainly offer the lottery menu of products online, but also to regulate all forms of gaming. And the benefit is that you don't have two agencies and all that goes with it, avoiding any duplication. More important, you don't duplicate or have competing policies. Which would be otherwise be a major risk. So there's nothing wrong with having the lotteries play the role that lotteries do, that lotteries have. And in certain jurisdictions, DC lottery, for example, where there are no casinos, they are the offer of sports betting as well.
As gaming proliferates and as digital gaming is brought into the home, questions of responsible gaming arise. How do you see those issues being addressed this coming year?
That question should be one of the first questions to be asked and addressed. We're at the point right now, entering 2021, where all of the major and arguably minor traditional gaming operators have developed and are adhering to policies with respect to responsible gaming, to address problem gambling, to put forth mechanisms to address working mechanisms, including monitoring betting patterns, including having exclusion lists, and all that goes with it, and education programs, and treatment programs. That's got to be central. That has to be a basic requirement for licensure. You have to have that program in place. Can't overemphasize that. That wasn't always the case. This has been an evolution. We're at a point now we weren't at 20 years ago. The industry may have paid it lip service. It's gone beyond lip service. It's reality, and it's necessary. It's a necessary component of effective policy. It's a necessary component where the public can trust gaming operators having that in place.
Okay, great. We've covered a few prime issues. Any others that you'd like to mention in concluding?
I can only reiterate and emphasize the important points that have to be. If I know I'm like beating the same drum and singing the same song over and over again, but it has to be done. You've got to do it right. There are no do-overs, and if done right, public policy benefits when the casino industry benefits when public policy is established correctly. One last point, though, Frank, is that when you are looking at digital forms of gaming and authorizing digital forms of gaming, states should not simply be looking at what's the tax rate that they're thinking of, multiplying that by the projected revenues, coming up with a number. First of all, the tax rate's got to be reasonable, and it has to be enough to encourage operators to come in and recognize and generate a profit. But if done correctly, and you look at sports betting or iGaming or iLottery as a means of generating land-based visits, gaming and non-gaming, you've got to look at what does that translate into in terms of employment, sales tax, hotel tax, alcohol tax, et cetera. You come up with a different number. So the point is, if you ask the right questions, you'll get the right answers. But if you ask the wrong questions, you won't.
Good. Well, Mike, thank you very much. It's been very insightful. And I would invite everyone that's watching this video to watch our two upcoming videos, one with Senator Keith Pickard. Sorry, twice. You can help me out today, Mike. Who is the president of the National Council of Legislators from Gaming States, who also will talk about the issues that he sees legislatures facing this year. And also with Richard Kalm, who is the executive director of the Michigan Gaming Control Board, who will talk both about the issues, upcoming issues faced as regulators see them, and also tell us a little bit about Michigan, which is just about ready to step into iGaming and online sports betting and is facing those very same issues that you've addressed here today, Mike.
Can I just add one point to that? We're having Rick Kalm from Michigan there is also important because Michigan was also not under Rick's aegis, but under the lottery's aegis. Michigan was also one of the first states to have a really robust iLottery program. So they are, and they have commercial and they have tribal gaming. He's going to hit it from all points of view.
Right, and they probably have the most, not probably, but certainly have the most successful iLottery program of any of the states so far. Again, thanks very much. And for folks watching this video, we invite you again to request our annual national legislative preview, which you can get by going to our website, www.fantiniresearch.com, and there'll be a button for you to click on the homepage to receive that report by email. Thanks again, Mike.
Thanks, Frank.